Hi, Bob. Welcome. We've had people come in with questions and stuff on how it works, what it does, how it gets the audio feed. Does it pull it right from FPP, or is it like like Daryl says, a Shazam kind of thing and just takes the data and then pulls it off the web, or and
Yeah,
then
yeah. So I can give kind of like an overview of that.
yeah,
That's
an
helpful.
overview would be great.
Yeah. So I guess at the very basic, Pulsemesh is a program that allows you to listen to show audio from your phone. It works both on FPP and xSchedule. Um, in terms of how it works, there are a couple of different ways that you can listen. One is a mobile app that's available for iOS and Android, and the other is using a web player. So you basically open a web page on your phone and you can listen that way. Um, the way that it's working is it's not taking the actual audio output of the FPP or of xSchedule. Instead, what it's doing is it's grabbing the audio file and it's processing it. That happens once when it first sees the audio file, and then all it's doing while the show is running is it's actually just taking the timing data. In the case of FPP, that's the multi-sync data that it gets as a plugin, um, and sending that off to Pulsemesh, and then Pulsemesh will then distribute it to the clients. And so basically, we're just kind of, setting the right seek point in the song, if you will, and then playing it back on the client side.
So, Bob, let me ask you a further question on that. So that makes sense, right? That's what we thought, that you grabbed the audio once, right? So when do you do it? So when a playlist is scheduled and it's playing, or when anything gets added to the file management, whether it's in a playlist or not.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different depending on the player, right? So for FPP, it's just looking at everything in the audio and videos directory, and
Perfect.
it's processing anything that's there. On xScale,
Regardless if that's sequence or media, it's in any playlist, it's scheduled or anything. Once it shows up in
correct.
there for whatever minute. Okay. So
Yeah, if it's
theoretically, if I upload it, by the time I go in and schedule it and add it to a playlist, if I don't automatically add it with FPP, you probably already grab it by that time.
yes, yes, and
Okay.
that's usually the case unless there's a slow connection or there's just tons of audio files, right? Like I know that there are
Sure.
people out there that have 500 files, right? And that may take a little bit of time to upload, but otherwise,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So you grab it all at once at the beginning. And then obviously, then how do you manage? So obviously, I update my sequences 17 times a night, right? Because I find little things and I go in and I upload it, right? Not media, because FPP Connect handles that, right?
Yep.
So for you then constantly look at any new timestamps on the sequences, and then you grab those as soon as they're updated as well.
Yeah, so there's literally a file watcher that gets set on those directories. So any changes will cause Pulse to go, like the connector to actually go through and look at all of the files. And then the files are we can figure out if the files are updated because there's a unique hash calculated for each of the files. So if you change the audio levels, but you leave all of the metadata and everything the same, it will still capture that because it's an update to the binary data in the file. So basically, any updates will cause the hashes to get recalculated, and then Pulsemesh will know which ones are different and which ones it needs to upload.
So
Yeah,
you're looking at just
go
a
ahead.
file system hash and not necessarily a hash of the audio data itself, like something like Music Brains would use.
It's not an audio fingerprint. It is a hash of the binary data contained in the file.
Okay, like MD5 or SHA.
Yeah, yeah.
So if someone had a custom audio track, a voiceover or something like that, it'll still pull all that.
It will, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That was
I
my
guess
only
the other
question.
kind of neat thing is that it won't upload it if someone else has the same file, right? If you happen to be using a file from like Amazon, someone's probably already uploaded it, and there's no need to upload that again. right? Because
So that's a good point. But how do you know that? Just by that hash?
Just by the hash, correct.
Okay, so interestingly, additionally, right, FPP has a way of doing MP3 gains right on the file.
Yep.
And the way we kind of understand that, or certainly myself, right, it doesn't look like it's actually updating the files themselves. So, but it's playing it using that MP3 gain, whatever it creates.
It does edit the files. That actually modifies the ID3 tag data to change the
I
scale.
thought we looked at it that it didn't, because a new FPP connect is not going to override it because it doesn't see that it's changed. So if you MP3 gain it and then do an FPP connect, that file is not going to get overwritten because it doesn't think it changed. So unless it's changing it in a way that is not updating its timestamp.
It can do it in place.
Okay, so in that case, then if so, in that case, how would you know? I guess that hash also changes, right? Because the metadata, the hash of the file changes. So then you'll upload, you'll replace that file.
Yes. Yeah, if anything about the file changes, like any file content, we get the notification, like it's based on iNotify, right, which is built into Linux, right? And so any kind of write to those directories will trigger that, and then we'll recalculate the binary hashes for each file.
Okay. And additionally, then everything else you get multi-sync, right? You somehow sync with the multi-sync, and that's how you keep everything in sync with some kind of calculated delay to accommodate for that.
Yes, correct. So the plugin itself relies on multi-sync data, but it's basically coming through the plugin APIs, right? So there's code that's publicly available out there for the plugin itself, and basically what that plugin code does is it listens to that multi-sync data and then it sends it to a Unix socket. This is again for FPP, and then the actual Pulsemesh connector, which is a separate process, will listen to that Unix socket and actually convey that data to the Pulsemesh system.
I have a question. Let's say I've got a sequence that is the audio is MP3, which is the standard, but in that sequence I've got some videos that I've not separated out. They're MP4s. All I'm showing is the video. I'm not playing that audio. How do you differentiate between the two?
So we're looking at whatever media file is associated, whatever media file basically is sent from multi-sync is what we're picking up.
Okay. Right. So the question for the answer, Bob, is like, what's the sequence media file? That's what they're looking for. Doesn't matter what you're using within it.
Correct.
So regardless of if you change the name or not, it doesn't make any difference in it.
Yeah, if FPP can find it, then we should also be able to find it.
Well, if you change the name, then they're going to think it's a new file. They're going to get a new hash and then upload it. Right?
Okay, so yeah, so it's going to look at it as a whole new MP3, for example, right?
Yes.
Got it.
So now you said if somebody else has it, then and then you keep them all, right? You have a growing repository of all this media, let's say, right? But let's say I download, and I do this, I personally do it, right? I download it from Amazon, and I hate the way they name them. I cleanse all of my media, right? And I keep it all nice and clean, short as possible. That obviously it's a different name, but it's possibly the same hash as an existing one. Is that how, regardless of the name, then you match it on the hash and you throw it away that you already have it?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. So I think to be honest, the reason the discussion started today, it's kind of like people coming in and asking some of those questions, A, and B, is it something you guys use and recommend? And we're all sort of scared to do that because of the implications to us as a neighborhood show, right? That doesn't do donations, doesn't do anything. There's multiple tiers, right? But the fear is, is that going to spotlight my show to somebody that right now doesn't care? And B, if we were to use it, what is the potential for those that are non-commercial, right? Drive-throughs or neighborhood shows, whatever. What is the commercial implications of that after year one? So I don't want to put something in my show this year, right? Like, I have Remote Falcon, right? And that's fine. But I don't want to put something in this year that people might get used to and might like. And then next year, if I have to pay, it's like, I'm not paying. I'm taking it out, and then not offer that to my viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can certainly address the payment aspect. So I've kind of been putting off putting any specifics around this for a while.
The 20-minute timer on Andrew's Fire TV Cube is ringing.
Really, Andy?
20-minute timer on Andrew's Fire.
I'm kidding. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just going to say. So I think basically where we're heading is that Pulsemesh, like I've always wanted to, keep this free, and also kind of that balancing that against like the actual cost of running it and everything else. And where it looks like we're going is, I believe that all of the features that exist now in Pulsemesh will continue to remain free, and then there will be the option to add on additional features with some kind of small payment in the future. But that would basically mean that everything that exists today in terms of playing songs, playing it back, all of the various clients and all of that would remain free indefinitely based on the data that I've been able to put together so far. That should work out pretty well.
So you're saying something like, you get a 5-viewer license or something along that lines? And then if you want more viewers, you can add more.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And it basically would. Yeah. So basically there would be an upper limit of number of concurrent viewer sessions. I don't know what that number is right now, but it would be something that would differentiate, a drive-through attraction, a commercial drive-through attraction versus, something else. And obviously exceptions could be made where, I know that there are some very large, residential displays where, you may have a lot of people. And certainly, caveats could be made in those cases.
So what about the payment? Like, is this not, or are you not like the other guys, like actually trying to manage the payments to MRCA, whatever they are, based on the number of plays?
Yeah, so great question. So I think it was about mid-November. Pulsemesh actually announced that we are doing licensing with the US pros. So we do have agreements in place with all of the US pros, all three of the big ones. That really covers the US, right? And I think, there's definitely acknowledgement that this is a, something that is used worldwide. And trying to do licensing across the entire world is certainly a challenge. But at least for the US, we do pay performance rights for everyone that is using the app.
Wait, so you would pay for like me? Like if I use this and I play the songs, you would pay whatever those royalties are?
Yes.
Okay, and I know you said as far as you know now it's going to stay free. How are you able to do that? Besides the cost, adding the costing of like hosting all those media and doing all that bandwidth that you're doing in whatever data center stuff you're using.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, and obviously like sustainability here has been a top concern of mine, which is why I didn't really want to comment on like the long-term pricing implications until now, because now I actually have some data over the last few weeks. But basically the cost for performance licensing is actually quite a bit lower than I would have maybe expected. And a lot of that is based on just how many plays you're getting and everything else, but most of the licensing costs are designed around internet radio and things like that, and that really is the bucket that this falls into, if you will. So the costs are pretty low, and I believe that with some of the premium features that people could opt into, that it can be a sustainable model, even while keeping the performance licensing included for everyone using it on the free side.
Nice. So is it in essence like does it boil down to I am my own radio station, therefore my fees are probably non-existent versus pooling them all together? Or do you, because of the way you're doing, you have to pull them all together and the price is based on everybody?
Yeah, so it is pooled. It is based on the plays that Pulsemesh does. And so basically, when my contracts with the pros basically say, you can play back this many songs through Pulsemesh that are within our library within a year, kind of a statement, right? So so it's not broken out individually. Um, Theoretically you could kind of like add up all of the costs, but the way that the pros actually break it down is basically by um like by an app, right? So like if it's streamed through this app, it's covered under that licensing agreement.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that answered a lot of my questions that I have from.
Yeah, I think that takes care of a lot of it. People worry about, okay, like Alex said, is it going to stay at least free or at least nominal? Just that, like buying an app. Okay, I bought the app now this year and it's just renewal. It's a couple of bucks and it's free for the viewers. That's the big thing. Don't want to have the viewers have to pay to download an app. They're not going to do it to watch somebody's slideshow down the street.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no intent to charge the viewers. And honestly, my big goal is also to like not be advertising to viewers either, right? Like that was another potential avenue in terms of, being able to recoup costs in terms of like hosting and all of that. And I think in terms of the model that's kind of coming into place here, that won't be required either.
Hmm. Oh,
Is
cool.
there any recommendation from your side in what you've seen, whether people, I mean, if people want to do a neighborhood drive through and, go through multiple houses that might have this, it might make sense to maybe download the app. But is there, if people ask here in the Zoom room, is there preference to go, like if they create signs or something, right, to go towards downloading the app or using the web? Is there like is there positives on one and negatives on the other or something like that?
Yeah, no, and that's a good question. So they're a little bit of a mixed bag right now. The app is always going to be more accurate timing wise. Now, that may not be a huge difference between the two, but it is always going to be somewhat more accurate. The web, since there's less, native control over the playback, different devices may exhibit kind of different behaviors. Um, so we've seen devices with, up to like a second off in rare cases with the web version. Now, obviously, the nice thing about the web version is that it's much easier. No one needs to install anything, download anything. You just pull up the page and it runs. So I think what I've seen, because I put both of them out there and I haven't necessarily strongly recommended one or the other, we're seeing slightly more usage on the apps, but still pretty high usage on the web. So I'd say probably like 55% app, 45% web. And so, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, it's yeah, different display owners would have different preferences depending on, how long people stay, right? If people are staying for a long time, then downloading the mobile app might be better. But if people are, just kind of walking through and want to hear the display, then, the web app might be better. I'm hoping to resolve some of the differences between the two in the coming off season, and I'm hoping to get them more on equal footing. I think the other thing that I'll note is that with the web player, you can switch apps and lock the phone, and it will continue to play. But with the mobile app, it will not. You have to have the app open to hear the playback.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I know what using YouTube Music, I could, with a premium subscription, I could turn off the phone and still listen to the music.
Yes.
So
yeah, and I'd
this
like
is
to
the
add that.
opposite. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe just to give a little bit more of a reason why is basically when you're using the app, it will actually constantly adjust to match the output from the FPP or X schedule, and so that means that if the FPP runs a little bit faster, a little bit slow, which we've definitely seen, that app will keep it in sync, and that's something that I haven't been able to continue to do while the phone is off because of limitations in the mobile phone operating systems. So I'm still working on how to best do that, but I would like to add that feature to the app. But yeah, it's just not there yet.
And one of the other things I saw that was really neat with it is if you're recording a show, you have the web thing playing in the background, and you start recording your show on your phone. It records that audio. You don't need that separate radio playing.
Yes. Yeah, this has been something that I completely did not anticipate having because when I was testing it, it wouldn't work. But actually, on iOS 18 now, they've allowed concurrent usage of the camera and the web player. So that was kind of a hidden feature, and I guess it has worked for a while on Android as well.
Yeah, I have the Android and it worked since, I was trying it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, look at that. And then someone posted it just the other day. There's been a thread about it.
Yes.
What was the other?
As a side thought, like totally unrelated to this, well, somewhat related to the timing, right? And in FPP, there's an option to ignore sync packets, right? For especially video things that might sync back and forth.
Mhm.
And normally the multi-sync, it's like, a couple of frames, right? Milliseconds and stuff like that. Have you looked at maybe like in order to keep this, like what it means to actually not do true multi-sync and say, hey, once I know it starts or within that first, second or something and keep up with it, that if you were to superimpose, like just keep playing versus multi-sync, are you off?
Yeah, so that's basically what we do with the web player right now. Is the web player basically just starts it, makes sure it's within a certain offset, and then just lets it play. And that's really why we can lock the phone and switch apps and everything while it's doing that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, I'll shut up now.
No, great question.
Anybody else have any questions for Bob? Or Bob, you have any questions for some of the guys? Or
So one thing,
using, or because you have some FPP and xLights developers here.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess one I guess general thing is I've heard a couple of reports, and I've tried really hard to to get people to report it to me, but I've been unsuccessful so far. Is there's been a couple of reports of the log file for Pulsemesh filling up the SD card on FPP, and in general when that happens, right, people will come and they'll just delete it, which of course makes a lot of sense. But if anyone sees that and could let me know what the content is. I have been unable to track down what is actually repeating in the log, despite my best efforts. So yeah, I guess if that's seen, that would be super helpful.
Some the one that I helped somebody with was after they did an update to their FPP, and then it was starting to do that, and then we deleted it, uninstalled and reinstalled the plugin, and it didn't do it since then. It worked fine after that.
Okay.
So
there was an in-place, we could do an in-place upgrade, right? So nothing was rebooted, right? So something got stepped on the wrong wire.
Something
right?
with the upgrade or the plugins, it needed a refresh of the plugin after the update.
So had we done a
saying that it
reboot,
was
had we done a reboot, that probably would have solved the issue, right?
It's a good possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's an interesting thing that you noted, though, in terms of the upgrade. What I've noticed is that anytime someone does an upgrade, basically there's the warning on the main FPP page that says, actually I don't remember exactly what it says, but basically you can uninstall and reinstall and it works fine. And I assume that that's because it's compiled against the old version and it needs to be compiled against the new version. Is there any way to automate that from like a plugin author perspective?
We wouldn't do that for each one of the plugins to go and redo them, right? It's up to the plugin maybe to say to stop work and say it needs to do that. But I don't think you have to. I mean, unless Andy, do you remember? Did they go from like 7 to 8? Maybe. I mean,
I
that's a
don't.
major OS change.
I think it was an OS. I do think it was an OS upgrade. So typically that would require any plugin to be reinstalled,
Yeah.
Well,
But
not depends.
I don't recall
right?
that
If
specific
it's only
one.
PHP, right? I assume it wouldn't.
It depends if you're something because of the 7 to 8 migration, right? But if you're doing OS upgrades within the same version, you shouldn't have to reinstall the plugins.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, there could be broken dependencies, especially if he's referencing any libraries.
But unlikely from within a version. I mean, it could be, right? But more across 7 to 8.
Agreed. That's why we don't see as many. Right.
So to that point, though, do you not have a process to roll over logs, zip them, and then remove them, and only keep X amount of logs so this doesn't happen?
Yeah. So since it writes a log file to the same log directory as FPP does, it's subject to those same.
Nothing
the
happens
same log
there
rotate.
nothing happens there unless you do it, right? So your process needs to stop the log to say, I grew too much, I have too many logs, I need to roll over to a new one.
Yeah, so I mean, it will automatically roll, but I think it only runs once a day. So that's something that I definitely want to take a look at to see if I can, make sure that it doesn't grow larger than some reasonable amount, and then if so, yeah, act appropriately in terms of rolling over to a new one.
Travis, are you aware of any limitations within FPP that would like stop a log from growing, even though it just writes it to the log file?
No, I'm not sure, mate. Sorry, I haven't been intently listening either.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the applications or the plugins login, it's up to them to manage the growth and the archive and deleting and stuff. FPP is not going to manage the logs of external processes.
There's a log rotate setup for that directory, and I believe it will apply to all logs. I think the issue is that if the log grows too large during the day before the log rotate kicks in, the log is already that big, right? There's no way to kind of.
It's doing multiples. You'll see it. It'll be like Pulsemesh log 1, log 2, log 3, log.
Yes, and I'm not doing that. Yeah, so I think it's doing. I think that's based on the configuration in FPP. But I could actually monitor the log and make sure that if I'm growing larger than that preset limit, that I can basically deal with that log file.
Right, and possibly even delete, right? Because right now there is no process to delete them. So if they grow too big, just manage and delete them.
Yeah, I think the default, if I remember correctly, was to have like 7 or 8 log files and then delete the remaining. That was like the log rotate configuration for FPP.
Right. Oh, cool.
But yeah, definitely would appreciate if anyone sees anything, it would be great to just get a snippet of the log, because that would help me actually address like the root cause of the issue as well.
And if it was a version upgrade or what type of upgrade, what did they do?
Yep. Yeah, and really none of that should, like the separate process that's run, It's the separate process that's actually doing the logging. And as far as I know, like the executable file that I'm dropping onto the machine is standalone. It does not get it doesn't get statically or dynamically linked to anything on the OS side. So yeah, I guess I would say that I would be surprised if it was that process itself that was generating the large logs on upgrade. But certainly could be a possibility. Yeah, so rotate daily, max size 10 megabytes, and max size 7 days. And I think my understanding of this is that it will, if it is larger than 10 megabytes at the time that this runs, it will continue to stay that size. It will just compress it.
But that's kind of like an end of day process, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it could create that many in a day, and they're not that old, so you'll just keep a zillion of them.
But I mean, isn't this kind of byte shedding? Because this will be, I mean, we're talking about megabytes on SD that's gigabytes.
But I think that's what we're saying, right? If it's a problem and it rotates it at 10 megs, we'll just create that many in a day because it doesn't have a maximum. It's still within a day, so it created 1,000 in a day.
No, so what I've seen, the one example that I've seen where someone actually posted a screenshot of the file manager is it showed a a fresh log, and then it showed another one that was like .0, and it was very large. So basically that .0 log only got renamed. It didn't get rolled over multiple times during the day.
Correct. The log rotate is run by etc.cron.daily, and it runs. So that means it runs once per day, and the rules are what I put in chat. So that's what it will do when it runs daily. And I'm assuming syslog or something like that is where he's dumping the logs, which is creating the files.
Yeah, in this case, it's logging directly to that log file.
Right, but you're not going to have multiple files. You're responsible for one file. Then log rotate handles
Yes.
the file management and the compression and stuff.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That's that was the one thing that I wanted to make sure to bring up since I've heard that a couple of times. But yeah, I guess I didn't really have too much else. I do appreciate all of the support and everything. It's been a huge response this year, which honestly I didn't really expect. But at this point, I think we're at 850 displays that have been configured on Pulsemesh, which is just way beyond what I expected, especially in the first year. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with everything.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Anybody have anything else? I'll stop recording here and you can go back and we'll let Bob go. And
That's usually when the questions come, when you stop recording.
yeah, I know. As soon as I stop, I know. But,
No.
all right. Thanks, Bob.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks.